10 Motown artists. Every single one of them stood in a room at Hitsville and watched the spotlight swing right past them and land on Diana Ross. And every single one of them believed, some quietly, some in interviews, one of them in a book that sold 1 million copies, that it should have landed on them instead. This isn't the hit parade. This is the other side of that door. Number 10, the Velvelettes. Here's something almost nobody knows. In February of 1964, Motown put the Supremes in a head-to-head singing contest against another girl group on the same roster. And the Supremes lost. It happened at Detroit's Graystone Ballroom, a Battle of the Stars contest Motown staged among its own acts. And the group that beat them was the Velvelettes. 5 songs each, and the crowd went with the girls from Kalamazoo over Diane, Mary, and Flo, who were still a few months away from Where Did Our Love Go? There's a room full of Detroit people in 1964, and they voted. And they didn't vote for the Supremes. Now, the Velvelettes weren't nobodies who got lucky one night. Bertha Barbie and Mildred Gill started the group as students at Western Michigan. They drove from Kalamazoo to Detroit through a snowstorm just to audition. College girls, sharp, disciplined, and they could sing anybody in that building under the table. Norman Whitfield produced Needle in a Haystack for them in 1964. Number 45 on the Hot 100. Cal Gill on lead, sounding twice her age. Then, He Was Really Saying Something, their highest charting record on the R&B side. And then, nothing. Not a collapse, not a scandal, not a fight, just nothing. In their entire run at Motown, the Velvelettes were never given an album. 6 singles total, and the releases kept getting pushed over to VIP, a lower-profile Motown imprint. Not the front door, the side door. They won the room and lost the label. And here's what gets me about this one. Cal Gill could have spent the next 50 years bitter about all of it. She didn't. In interviews, she's spoken about Motown and Berry Gordy with pride and gratitude, and no resentment in it at all. Which is its own kind of heartbreak, if you think about it long enough. Because sometimes the people who had the most taken from them are the ones who complain the least, and that's exactly why you've never heard their names. If you've ever been the best person in the room and watched the promotion go to somebody else, you already know how quiet that kind of losing is. Nobody writes a song about it. Number 9. Kim Weston. You know that feeling when you turn something down and then you have to spend the rest of your life listening to it on the radio? Kim Weston lived that twice. She signed with Motown in the company's early days and got a minor R&B hit in 1963 with Love Me All the Way. Big voice. Almost operatic. There were people in that building who'd tell you flat out she could outsing anybody on the roster, and they weren't exaggerating. Then Mickey Stevenson and Marvin Gaye wrote a song and brought it to her. She said no. Martha Reeves said yes. The song was Dancing in the Street. Here's where this gets a little messy, so stay with me. Kim's own version of the story isn't the one you usually hear. She said her husband, Motown A&R boss Mickey Stevenson, handed it to Martha because he was angry with her. So which was it? A bad call in a hallway or a marriage argument that cost her one of the greatest records of the decade? Nobody can tell you for certain, but the tape went out under somebody else's name and it never came back. She got hers though. 1965, Take Me in Your Arms, Rock Me a Little While, number 4 R&B, then Helpless, then a full duets album with Marvin Gaye called Take Two, and out of it came It Takes Two. That's the one that should have made her permanent, and this is the part that still gets me. By the time It Takes Two was actually peaking on the charts in early 1967, Kim Weston had already walked out of Motown. She was gone. And then she turned around and sued the label over royalties. Her biggest record in the world was on every radio in America, and she wasn't there for a second of it. The building had already turned its whole face toward Diana. Later, she recorded Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black national anthem, and then poured the rest of her life into community projects and art programs back in Detroit. She stopped chasing a crown that was never going to be handed to her and went and did something that outlasted the charts. And honestly, I think that's the better ending. But I know some of y'all think she should have stayed and fought for what was hers. Real talk, only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 8, Brenda Holloway. Before Diana Ross was Diana Ross, the Supremes were an opening act, and Brenda Holloway is who they were opening for. Motown's own museum will tell you this. When Brenda Holloway went out on tour for the first time, the then struggling Supremes were her opening act. Every Little Bit Hurts went to number 13 on the Hot 100 in 1964. And that voice, that slow, aching, patient thing she does with a bat. In 1964, Brenda was out on Dick Clark's Caravan of Stars, and the Supremes were bottom billed on that same tour. Then Where Did Our Love Go muscled into the top 10 in July, and by the end of the run, Mary, Flo, and Diana were climbing toward the headline spot. She was in Los Angeles while the roster lived in Detroit, and she spent years fighting the label over control of her own music. Motown scrapped her second album, Hurtin' and Cryin', outright, and she said it plainly since. She felt pushed aside while Diana Ross and the Supremes racked up hit after, so she wrote her own way out. Her boyfriend quit her, and she decided out of pure spite she was going to write a happy song about it. The song was You've Made Me So Very Happy. Her version got to number 39. Shortly after, she left Motown for good. Years later, Blood, Sweat and Tears cut their own arrangement and took it to number 2. Gold record. Their album won Album of the Year at the Grammys. Somebody else's horns. Somebody else's trophy. Her song. So she sued Berry Gordy over the money. And number 7, Jean Terrell. Now here's a woman who actually got it. She got the exact thing every other name on this list wanted. Diana Ross's job. Diana Ross's microphone, Diana Ross's group. I want you to see what it was worth. Jean Terrell came out of Belzoni, Mississippi. Her brother was Ernie Terrell, the heavyweight champion who fought Muhammad Ali. Gordy found her singing with her brother in a Miami Beach nightclub and decided she'd be the one to replace his protege. January 14, 1970, the Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas. Diana plays her last show with the Supremes and personally brings Jean out on that stage to introduce her to the world. Biggest handoff in Motown history. And here's what happened next. According to Mary Wilson, Gordy almost immediately changed his mind. He wanted Syreeta Wright instead. Wilson said no, she was keeping Jean. So Gordy declared he was washing his hands of the group. The founder of Motown handed her the most famous name in the company and then walked away from it inside of a few weeks because he didn't get his pick. The promotional machine swung toward Diana's solo career, and every resource went with it. And it went deeper than money. Producer Frank Wilson had to ask Jean to pull back on her vocal runs because he thought she was singing too soulful. And he didn't believe Gordy would consider a record like that accessible enough for the audience they wanted. Too soulful. At Motown, in 1970. So what did she do with all that? Up the ladder to the roof. Number 10 pop, number 5 R&B. Then Stoned Love, number 7 on the Hot 100, and number 1 R&B. The last number 1 R&B hit the Supremes would ever have. The last pop top 10 they'd ever have under any lineup. No support, no boss, no machine behind her, and she still put them back in the top 10 twice. Here's what I think about when I hear Stoned Love. Jean Terrell didn't inherit a group. She inherited a name that somebody else had already taken the batteries out of. And honestly, I'd put that record up against half the number ones that came before it. I know that's going to make some of y'all mad, and I'm fine with that. Number 6, the Marvelettes. Everybody says the Supremes put Motown on the map. That's not true. And Gladys Horton went to her grave knowing it wasn't true. Gladys was 15 years old when Please Mr. Postman hit number 1 on the Hot 100 in December of 1961, the first number 1 Berry Gordy's company ever had. Marvin Gaye played drums on it. 15. And the whole empire starts with her voice. These were girls from a high school glee club in Inkster, Michigan. Motown told them to come back with an original song. Georgia Dobbins brought back Please Mr. Postman and then dropped out of the group to take care of her sick mother before it ever came out. She wrote The Door and never walked through it. Gladys said it herself years later. They weren't polished city girls. They were country girls from Inkster who didn't know what to wear or how to handle any of it. They learned as they went, and Motown never let them forget it. Now here's the one that hurts. Holland Dozier Holland brought the Marvelettes a song. The group passed on it. That song was Where Did Our Love Go? Gladys's account is that they were played 2 songs that afternoon, and they picked Too Many Fish in the Sea instead, because it had all the music in it, all the bongos, all the energy. They said it at the same time. They were sure. So the writers walked that other song down the hall to a group everybody at Motown was still calling the no-hit Supremes. One decision, one afternoon, 2 words, no thanks, and the entire second half of the 1960s reorganizes itself around it. And here's the detail that really sits with you. At one point, Motown had actually sent Florence Ballard out on the road to fill in for a pregnant Marvelette, because the Supremes were the least successful group on the label at the time, and the girls liked Flo. She was their substitute. Gladys Horton died in 2011, at 66, in a nursing home in Sherman Oaks, recovering from a stroke. First voice on the first #1 Motown ever had. If Please Mr. Postman was the first record you ever owned, the actual 45, In Your Hand, Say So. Number 5, Mary Wells. There was a queen of Motown before Diana Ross, and in 1964, at the absolute peak of her powers, she walked straight out the door. Mary Wells was 17 when she signed Bye Bye Baby, then The One Who Really Loves You, then Two Lovers. You Beat Me to the Punch earned the first Grammy nomination not just for her, for Motown, period. The whole company. Then in the week of her 21st birthday, My Guy went to #1 on the Hot 100. It knocked Louis Armstrong's Hello Dolly out of the top spot. 2 weeks later, the Beatles took it back. And the Beatles were her fans. They invited her to tour the UK with them later that year. She was the biggest thing Berry Gordy had. It wasn't close. It wasn't a debate. And then she left. She sued. Her attorneys argued the contract she'd signed as a minor didn't hold anymore, and they won. At 21 years old, Mary Wells walked, and Motown lost the first superstar it ever had. Motown fought it hard, too. They warned other labels off signing her. She landed a big money deal at 20th Century Fox anyway, and her career fell off a cliff almost immediately. She never had another top 10 record. Not one, ever. And inside Motown, her story turned into something else entirely. A cautionary tale, a warning for anybody else on that roster unhappy enough to think about crossing Berry Gordy. And that's the part that reframes this whole list, if you let it. Mary Wells didn't just leave a job, she left a vacancy. And the woman who eventually filled it never had to wonder what leaving would cost her, because Mary had already shown everybody, in public, in real time. Some people say she was reckless. Others say she was the only one brave enough to demand what she was worth. You probably already know which side you're on. She was a long-time heavy smoker. In 1990, she opened her mouth to sing, and nothing came out. Doctors found cancer of the larynx. It took her voice, then her money, then her life. She died in 1992, 49 years old. And Diana Ross and Mary Wilson were both among the people who helped raise money for her at the end. Number 4, Martha Reeves. She started out as a secretary in that building, and for about 2 years, she ran it. Martha Reeves was working as a secretary at Motown when she talked her way into getting her group in the door as backing singers on Marvin Gaye sessions. That's her voice you hear behind Stubborn Kind of Fellow, Hitchhike, Pride and Joy. Then, Come and Get These Memories, the first real collaboration Holland Dozier Holland ever had as a team. Then, Heat Wave. Number 4 Pop. Number 1 R&B, 1963. Then, Dancing in the Street. Number 2 in October of 1964, their highest charting record ever, and an anthem that grew way past them. In that window between the Marvelettes fading and the Supremes arriving, Martha and the Vandellas were the queens of Motown. Not contenders, queens. And then the window closed on her fingers. Holland Dozier Holland got preoccupied with the Supremes, and Martha became convinced. She said it in interviews. She put it in her 1994 autobiography that her group's success was being undermined by Berry Gordy's obsession with the Supremes. Here's the evidence she points to. You decide. The Vandellas recorded Jimmy Mack in March of 1964. Gordy rejected it at one of his quality control meetings. And one version of the story that went around was that it sounded too much like what the Supremes were doing at the time. So it sat on a shelf for 3 years. By 1966, Lamont Dozier says Gordy was scrambling to find something for Martha because her career was on a downward slope. He told them to pull everything out of the can. He heard Jimmy Mack and said, "Get this thing out right away." It went to number 10 pop and number 1 R&B in 1967, the final top 10 pop hit the Vandellas ever had. Her last hit was a 3-year-old tape somebody found in a closet during an emergency. Martha ended up on prescription drugs trying to hold that schedule together. Breakdowns. A period of institutionalization. She's been drug-free since 1977. And if you've ever done the work, done it right, and watched it disappear into somebody's drawer while a decision got made about you in a room you weren't invited to, you know exactly what that shelf feels like. Number 3, Gladys Knight. Gladys Knight didn't want to go to Motown. She already knew. She was worried she and the Pips would end up playing second fiddle to Diana Ross and the Supremes. But the Pips were a democracy, and the rest of the group voted to go, so she went. She was right within a year. On A&E's biography, she said it out loud. She and the Pips were regarded as a second-string act, while the big names got the hits, and her group took what was left over. So they took the leftovers and made history out of them. I Heard It Through the Grapevine had already been recorded by the Miracles and then by Marvin Gaye, and Berry Gordy had rejected both of them. Third Hand Song, twice rejected. So Norman Whitfield tore it down and rebuilt it. He'd been listening to Aretha's Respect, and he wanted a Muscle Shoals kind of funk under it. Gladys spent weeks working out the vocal arrangement with the Pips, her brother, her cousins, sitting there getting it right. Their version came out in September 1967. Number 1 R&B, number 2 pop, and it became the biggest selling single Motown had ever released up to that point. Second string group, Leftover Song, biggest record in the building. Then Gordy put out Marvin's version a year later, 7 weeks at number 1. It outsold theirs and became the biggest hit single Motown ever had. The label beat her, with her own song, using a tape they'd already turned down. And in her autobiography, Gladys wrote that Diana Ross had the Pips removed from a 1968 Supremes tour because, in her telling, they were simply too good on that stage every night. She left for Buddha Records in 1973, and then she did Midnight Train to Georgia, Grammy, number 1, on her terms, in her own house, with nobody's permission. Whether she was right about what happened on that tour, or whether it looked completely different from the other side of the curtain, I'll let you decide. There has only ever been one person's version of that night. But here's what nobody argues with. She needed to leave that building to become who she was. Number 2, Mary Wilson. 12 years. Mary Wilson stood 3 feet away from it for 12 years. 3 girls out of the Brewster Douglas projects, sitting outside Motown every single day until somebody finally came out and asked if they'd do some background hand claps. I see a dream that's lost from the hurt. Their parents had to sign the contract because they were underage. Gordy made them change the name. They threw options in a hat, and Flo pulled out the Supremes, and Mary stayed through every single version of it. Reflections of you and me. Reflections of... She kept that group alive until she finally disbanded it herself in 1977. Then in 1986, she wrote the book Dream Girl, was the first tell-all anybody from the so-called Motown family ever published. The way life used to be. Reflections of... In it, she pointedly refers to Ross by her birth name, Diane, all the way through, and describes her as someone who used her relationship with Berry Gordy to get what she wanted. Now, no love to shield me, trapped in a world that... She wrote about Ross pushing openly for Flo's removal from the group. When Jet asked her that year whether the whole thing was just sour grapes, she said people would believe whatever they wanted, and she didn't much care. Here's the detail that tells you everything, though. A distorted reality. Mary Wilson isn't even on Someday We'll Be Together, the last Supremes number 1. That's Diana with the Andantes, Motown's in-house background group. The final number 1 by the biggest girl group in history, and one of the actual Supremes, wasn't in the room when they cut it. In 2000, there was supposed to be a reunion. Wilson was offered $4 million for the Return to Love tour. Ross was getting considerably more. Wilson said the talks collapsed because they wouldn't pay her properly as a founding member. Ross said it was never about the money and called the whole thing short-sighted. The tour went out without her and got pulled after 12 dates. Nobody won that one. And still, in that same book, Mary wrote that despite everything Diane had done to hurt and humiliate her, she loved her anyway, and she was proud of her. Well, just a handful of promises are all that's left. That's not bitterness. That's something a whole lot more complicated. And if you've ever loved somebody you couldn't quite forgive, you already know there's no clean word for it. Mary Wilson died in February of 2021. She was 76.
The way life used to be. Reflections of
Number 1, Florence Ballard. She named the group. She was the original lead singer, and she died on the 8th anniversary of the exact day Motown let her go. Stay with me on that one, because I don't mean it poetically. I mean the calendar. Florence Ballard sang on 16 top 40 singles. She was the voice out front before anybody was, and it was her hand that pulled the name The Supremes out of that hat. Then July 1st, 1967, the day after her 24th birthday, she showed up for the third night at the Flamingo in Las Vegas drunk and stuck her stomach out on stage. Gordy ordered her back to Detroit. Cindy Birdsong replaced her, and the decision had already been made back in May. They were just waiting on Birdsong's contract to be bought out. She'd been gone for 2 months. Nobody told her. For 6 years, with the biggest group in the world, she got a one-time payment of $139,804. And as part of that agreement, she wasn't allowed to promote herself as a former Supreme or even mention Motown at all. They took the money down, and then they took the name too. ABC Records signed her. 2 singles, neither charted, and they shelved her album. Then the settlement money vanished through the management agency run by the very attorney who'd handled her Motown deal in the first place. In 1971, her husband left and the house was foreclosed on. She sued Motown for more royalties and lost. A few years after founding the hottest group in the country, she was on welfare in Detroit. And then, this is the part I cannot get past. In early 1975, she won an insurance settlement, bought a house on Shaftesbury Avenue, started singing again. She was in the middle of a comeback. On February 21st, 1976, she went into Mount Carmel Mercy Hospital with numbness in her hands and feet. She died at 10:05 the next morning, a blood clot, 32 years old. February 22nd, the same date, 8 years to the day, that Motown had released her from her contract. Over 5,000 people came to New Bethel Baptist Church. Stevie Wonder, the Four Tops, Mary Wilson, Diana Ross, and in 1988, she became the first woman ever inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame posthumously, 12 years after they buried her.